Hey, everybody. So, in the Gentle Parents Unite Facebook group, somebody had asked me for some advice on hitting and small children. Um, I realized it's really a lot to type, but the information is pretty important. I think it really starts with recognizing that hitting is a phase. Hitting is one variation of normal, I say in air quotes, because what is really normal. But hitting is developmentally appropriate for children, and it is something that a lot of them will at least experiment with a little bit throughout their childhood, which is all right. We really want to work with the phase and work with the child. And I like to start by reminding parents not to panic. It's not your fault. It's a phase. Your child is trying to communicate. They are emotionally overwhelmed and they need your support. When the stage arrives, the primary focus is to make sure we, the parent, are more aware and on so that we can keep bodies safe, ours and those of others, of course. I don't really love that part of the advice because I know as parents, we're already exhausted and it takes a bit of energy to just be on all of the time. But no matter what the parenting approach, when a child reaches the hitting phase, and we know that our child doesn't quite have the emotional regulation to not act out with violence, we really kind of have that responsibility to be present, to try and help as much as possible and to keep everybody safe. Of course, you know, we're human and mistakes happen and we're not always on, no matter how on we are. Sometimes it slips past us and we have to have grace for ourselves too. Um, so when like we're in the heat of the moment when the thing actually happens, what do we do? Because I think that advice is pretty primary before we get into some of the other things that I want to talk about. So when we see our kid or any child really going to hit another child, we can get in the middle, keeping as calm as we possibly can. Get in the middle, try putting your hands up to the side maybe, and just be like, hey, I'm here to help. Or, what's going on, everybody? How can I help? Something, engage them. Generally speaking, when we do this, the child that's hitting will stop hitting. Most of the time, they don't want to hit us, they want to hit the other child that's present. So, um, we might accidentally catch a stray punch, but if we put our hands up kind of out to the sides, it'll keep our face protected. Um, so just in case they actually do keep hitting, most of the time kids will stop hitting when we do this. Um, the reason I give this advice is that when we grab a child, um, if you grab the child who is doing the hitting, they might escalate and get more angry and try to hit you and try to escape, and the whole situation escalates a whole bunch. And when you grab the child that's getting hit, and I say this from experience because I was a smaller child, it actually opens them up for a free punch. My mom would always grab me to protect me, and my sister would get me on the side of the face every time when my mom was in the middle of that action. And so, with the best of intentions, right? So when we get into the middle with a really calming attitude, and we're just like, "Hey, man, what's up? I'm here to help." Um, or "Hey, people." I like to use non-gendered language. I want to correct myself there. Um, when I do it, I like to catch myself. But so when we do that, it generally de-escalates the situation, and then we can establish what is going on and maybe meet the needs and keep the hitting from wanting to happen. Um, So there's some hands-on advice that hopefully can help parents in a moment when things are kind of getting out of control and we want to stay calm and we don't want to shame anybody and we really want to get to the bottom of things like what's going on, why is the hitting occurring to begin with. Hitting doesn't happen in a funnel. It's not like people, even small children, are generally speaking, sometimes it might occur, but generally speaking, people aren't just walking up to each other and punching each other for no reason. Hitting is um it's occurring because something else is occurring. So let's tend to those underlying needs, whatever those underlying needs are, while we're working on keeping all of the bodies safe. Now, I kind of want to get into what some of those underlying needs could be with children when they're going through these phases. One of the big things that can play a role is sensory stuff can play a huge role um, in children acting out. If children are in any of the what I like to call overs, overtired, over hungry, overstimulated, any feeling over over it, uh, they're more likely to act out with violent behaviors. So paying attention to our child and the mood that they're in and what their limits are, how long, they can be out of their own environment, how long past nap time or bedtime it is, how long have they been interacting in a situation that kind of felt edgy and uncomfortable. And does our child have sensitivities to things like light and sound and all of these different environmental things? And we can certainly help our child while they're going through this phase to not hit by adjusting the environment, by helping them if they're in any of these places where they might be becoming really emotionally dysregulated, which leads to them hitting. Another instance where hitting might occur is when there's been an altercation, when two people disagree and one person doesn't have the communicational skills or the right tools, or maybe they just became too emotionally compromised and they lashed out and they hit somebody. Um, so if we can lean into that, let's communicate. Let's help the children communicate and not coming in as the judge and jury saying like, oh, well, you did this and that, and then you did this and that, but you really shouldn't have done this and you really shouldn't have done that. And, you know, um, but just coming in really non-judgmental and non-committed to the outcome and like nobody's a bad person here. We're just miscommunicating. And like, the behaviors have escalated to where things are emotionally dysregulated. And so then maybe we can work through what some of the problems are. One example that I like to use is like, you know, one child has a Lego tower and they've been building this intricate Lego tower, and then the younger sibling comes along and they knock over the Lego tower, and like the older sibling lashes out and punches them. And without telling the older sibling, well, it's really terrible that they knocked over your Lego tower, but you just can't go around hitting people. We can talk through this thing like, yeah, you know what, that's like really difficult. And then maybe using kind of the premise and basis of nonviolent communication, we can establish the needs with the kids and see, like the kid that came and knocked over the Lego tower, did they want to play with some of the Legos? Did they want some of the other kids' attention? um, were they trying to help and didn't have the motor skills to help? Well, what would be some of the solutions that we could have in this situation? And when we're doing this, we're modeling healthy communicational skills, healthy problem solving, and we're helping our child see what to do and what they can do instead of hitting without shaming them for that act of hitting. Um, and if we're able to be preventative and we can see some of this stuff coming, and we're able to get in the middle before it happens, then we can really get to some of the problem solving before there's any of those senses of the internal shame. Because we as humans have this like internal sensor that tells us, you know, what feels good and what doesn't feel good. We have our own like guide to our values and things like that. And when children lash out and hit people, they generally do feel ashamed and sad, and they really would like to have some better tools, like maybe to protect their Lego tower. And so, how can we really problem solve and find solutions with these kids so that the Lego tower is protected, so that the need of the other child, is met, and um, everybody's able to come back together with healthy communication. And these are wonderful relational skills to be teaching to your children. Um, Another thing that I want to point out is that a lot of hitting happens around emotional dysregulation. Emotional dysregulation happens around things like I was saying before, just being really overwhelmed. And it can happen around a lot of different things that trigger people and send them into a state where they're completely emotionally dysregulated and they don't have a lot of control of their bodies. So, what do we do about that? For me, I find that it's really important, the modeling piece of teaching emotional regulation, because I just don't think that it can be do as I say, not as I do. And again, I want to acknowledge that we're all humans, and sometimes we accidentally do yell or snap or growl or act out of alignment with ourselves. And we have to have a grace with ourselves around that and not judge ourselves harshly on that either. Just the same way I'm suggesting that you hold children space for your children, I really hope you're able to hold that space for yourself and your own growth around the ways that we express our emotions. We come from a society that's incredibly emotionally suppressed. So, teaching emotional regulation, so much of it comes from the modeling, the emotional regulation, and sharing with our children the tools that we're able to use that help us to emotionally regulate when something really frustrates us, when we want to scream and yell, but we don't. What helps us? And sharing that with our children in a connected moment, or even just the modeling of the using it and maybe saying it out loud, like, I'm feeling frustrated. When I'm frustrated, I like to take deep breaths, or I like to do something active. And sometimes, getting up and moving around really helps me when I'm feeling frustrated. What are the different things that help you when you're feeling frustrated? And throw it back at them so that they can reflect on it and introspect and think of some of the things that might be their own tools too. And be a safe space for your child's emotions. Try to be as calm and regulated as you can, and as understanding of them and who they are as you can. Um, so I really want to finish this up by saying that um, hitting is a phase, and we can't just stop a phase today, no matter how hard we try. And a lot of the things that people do when they're trying to end something right now, like a child hitting, and you're getting really frustrated. So clearly, as you're getting more frustrated, you're going to be getting places closer to the places where you're emotionally dysregulated, or maybe trying things that other people are telling you to try that come out as aggressive or as ways that really don't teach that emotional regulation, and they model the opposite of the emotional regulation. And so when we recognize that this is a stage, that we're not trying to get control of it today, but we really want to help our child so that when they get through this stage, and we want to get help them to get through this stage as quickly as possible, and that when they get through the stage they have really healthy relational tools that help them to regulate their emotions, express their emotions in healthy ways, that help them to solve their problems, that help them to communicate the things that are going on. And those are like all part of lifelong growth. And so when we're talking about really small kids, like lots and lots and lots of grace and understanding and being there and being present, and like the things that I said in the beginning of this recording, just do your best to stay calm and to be present and to share those tools that you have to emotionally regulate, and help your child through this stage and help them to be a problem solver. So I'll leave it at that. And thank you all for having a listen.